Let's analyze what might happen under the assumption that a weapon of mass destruction, especially a nuclear bomb, is used in this real-world conflict. 1. Immediate humanitarian catastrophe. The first and most devastating impact would be the immediate loss of life. A nuclear bomb detonated over a densely populated area in either Iran or Israel could kill tens or hundreds of thousands of people within minutes. The scale of destruction would be unlike anything seen since Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945. Hospitals would be overwhelmed, emergency services destroyed, and cities potentially wiped off the map. Fallout and radiation would continue to cause suffering for months and years to come, including cancer, birth defects, and environmental contamination. Regional escalation and retaliation. If Israel were the user of the bomb, Iran and its allies, such as Hezbollah in Lebanon or proxy militias in Iraq and Syria, would likely retaliate with massive missile and drone strikes. If Iran used the weapon, Israel's response could be even more devastating, potentially involving further nuclear use. Neighboring countries like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Egypt, already wary of regional instability, could be drawn into the conflict militarily or diplomatically. There would be a high risk of escalation into a full-scale regional war, possibly involving the Persian Gulf, Red Sea, and Eastern Mediterranean. 3. International military intervention. The use of a nuclear bomb would trigger immediate global condemnation and likely military responses from global powers. The United States, a close ally of Israel but also a proponent of nuclear non-proliferation, might be forced to intervene militarily or diplomatically. Russia and China, both of whom have ties with Iran, could respond strongly, either through the United Nations or via their own military alignments. NATO would be pressured to respond, especially if any fallout reached Europe. 4. Economic shockwaves. Global markets would panic. Oil prices would likely skyrocket, as the Middle East supplies a large portion of the world's oil. Disruption in the Strait of Hormuz, through which around 20% of the world's petroleum passes, would severely impact global trade. Stock markets would plunge, and countries already grappling with inflation or economic instability could face recessions. The war would affect shipping lanes, international air travel, and supply chains, further stressing an already fragile global economy. 5. Environmental and long-term effects. The environmental consequences would extend beyond the blast zone. Nuclear explosions release radioactive isotopes into the atmosphere, which can travel great distances. Radiation can contaminate water supplies, soil, and food sources. The concept of nuclear winter, a theory that a full-scale nuclear exchange could block sunlight and lower global temperatures, might not apply from a single bomb, but regional effects like acid rain, crop failure, and long-term uninhabitability of affected areas are likely. 6. Collapse of diplomatic norms. The use of a nuclear weapon would shatter the taboo against their use since World War II. It could encourage other nuclear-armed states to consider first use in conflicts, increasing the likelihood of nuclear proliferation. Countries without nuclear weapons might rush to develop or acquire them, believing that deterrence is their only protection. The Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, NPT, could collapse in effectiveness. 7. Humanitarian and refugee crisis. Millions of people could be displaced as cities are destroyed or contaminated. Refugees would flow across borders, potentially overwhelming neighboring countries. International organizations like the UN, Red Cross, and NGOs would struggle to provide aid amid the ongoing conflict and radiation risks. The humanitarian crisis could surpass the displacement seen during the Syrian Civil War or the Iraq War. 8. Global public opinion and political fallout. Governments would face pressure from their citizens to de-escalate the conflict or seek justice. Mass protests, particularly in Europe and the United States, could demand an end to nuclear weapons altogether. Political leaders involved in the decision to use the bomb could face war crimes tribunals or international sanctions. Even allies of the country that deployed the bomb might sever ties or impose penalties. Conclusion. The use of a nuclear or nucleic bomb in the Israel-Iran conflict would be a turning point in modern history. It would unleash death, environmental ruin, political chaos, and economic collapse. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.